This video will show you how to create and submit an amendment on an already approved study. So once you've logged into Remo and are on your Remo homepage, you'll need to find the study that you want to submit an amendment for. So please note that you can only submit an amendment on an already approved study. You'll be able to find your approved studies in the My Studies tab. So just click on the study that you want to create an amendment for. And on the left-hand side, under your activities, you'll see the option to create either a closing report, renewal, or an amendment. So you click on Create an Amendment. Now first, you'll have to fill out a short amendment form, just outlining the changes that you're going to make and why you're requesting to make the changes. So this first question just asks for details about which sections of the application are going to be changed. So you can choose from consent, protocol, the study investigator or population, procedures, methods, materials, or other. So just choose which category or categories best fit the amendment, and if you choose other, please explain below. So for the purpose of this one, let's just say that we're going to update our recruitment strategies. So we can click Other. Just add that recruitment strategies have been added. Question 2 asks for a little bit more detail for you to outline the proposed changes to the approved research. So please include as much detail as you can in here around any procedures that are changing, the consent, the recruitment, sample size, anything that might be changing for this amendment. And please don't refer to any attached documentation that you've submitted with your amendment. So for here, we can just say that we are adding a recruitment poster to post at the U of A campus. Question 3 asks if your approved consent documents need to be revised as a result of this amendment. So in cases where you would say yes to this are obviously if you're changing the version of a consent form to include different procedures, updates to study staff and contact information, things like that. So for the purposes of this, we won't be updating our consent documents, so you can click No. If you do click yes, it's good just to provide detail on the types of changes that are going to be reflected in the consent forms. 4.0 asks if you currently have participants in the study who will need to be advised of these changes. So if you plan to do any sort of follow-up from the current methods or current procedures of data collection or anything that the participants need to know about and you need to send them information about it, you would click yes here and then detail how you will notify the participants of the changes. So for the purposes of this one, we can say no. 5.0 asks if Health Canada approval is required for this amendment. So for this one, also no. Then click Continue. Now this page asks about document revisions. So again, just click the category that best suits the amendment. So for this one, we'll click Recruitment Materials. And if you're submitting a bunch of different documents for review, changes to them, please provide a list of all the documents that you're submitting. Sometimes it can be confusing if many new documents are added to an amendment, so it's good to have a list to fall back on here. And then click Continue. Now this is the final page of the amendment, and this is where you can actually go and edit the study itself. So now that you have filled in the amendment form, you need to make changes, the proposed changes, to the application itself. So click on Edit Study, and it'll bring you back to the original application to make your edits. So when you're going through the application, we really suggest going through page by page. I know sometimes it might seem obvious as to what changes need to be made, but we find that when we get an amendment and we're reviewing it, that sometimes there's inconsistent information because someone has made a change in one section that isn't reflected in another section. So it's best to go through your application just as if you were doing a new one, and make sure that all of the procedures or anything that you're changing is completely up to date. And it's also important to only include the current up-to-date information in the amendment. So any sort of procedures that you may have used previously, or if you were using a different sort of consent, it's important to update that. We will have a snapshot of the originally approved study, so if we do for any reason need to go back to see what information was in the approved study, we can do that. So just important to only include current up-to-date information in the amendment. So for the purposes of adding a recruitment poster, we're just going to jump to the recruitment section here. So here we can update this section. You can say potential participants will So in 1.2, I'm just adding information about the recruitment poster. And just double check that everything looks okay and that you've added the information that you need. And once you've done that and you think that the section of the application is done, I would just click Save, just to make sure that you don't lose any previous changes that you've made if you jump to another section. So I've updated the recruitment section. I'm going to go to documentation and upload my new recruitment poster. So here I will just click Add. If you already had a document here, there would be an option to update, and then that's going to upload a new version with the date that you've uploaded it. So because there's nothing here though, we'll click Add. And I will find my recruitment poster and upload it to the documentation section. Click OK. There, now that's been added to my recruitment materials, and see that it shows version 1 because I didn't upload a revision, and it is date stamped with the date and the time that I uploaded it. So again, if you already had something here and you were updating the version of it, you would just click Upload Revision, and whatever you put in here would replace the original. So I think I'm pretty much done my amendment, so I'm going to click Save. Then I'm going to click Continue and Finish. So please note that this, just by clicking Finish on the amendment, it does not submit the amendment for review. So once I click Finish here, and then Finish, so once you click Finish, it takes you back to the final amendment page again to click Finish. Okay, so you'll see on the top left-hand side it says PAA, which is a post-approval activity, meaning either an amendment or a renewal, is in pre-submission. So that means that you haven't submitted it yet. And in the history you can see that it's been created, but not submitted. So on the left-hand side you can just submit for REB review. If you go through the amendment and you realize that either you've made a mistake or you need to withdraw, you can withdraw here, or you can edit the post-approval activity on the left-hand side here. But here we will click Submit for REB review. You can add any comments in here if you want to the REB coordinator or to the REB reviewer, and if you don't have any, then you can just click OK. And then you'll see that the current state in the orange text box here is RAB Administrative Review, and you'll see in the history that the amendment has been submitted for RAB review. If you do want to go back to the original study, you will click on Test 1 here. So in this gray bar on top, it's the title that is furthest to the right is going to be the application that you're in. So right now we're in post-approval activity, which is the amendment. And if you wanted to get back to the original application, you would just click on the activity before, which will bring you back to the original application. And here again it says approved, but PAA, or post-approval activity, is open. And you can see that an amendment was started today. And if the RAB or the RAB administrator requires any sort of clarifications on your amendment, they'll send it back to you and you're going to receive a notification about that. If not, then you will receive a notification when the amendment is approved. And that's how you submit an amendment.